Hello. All right, well, during the past 2 days, I have refined the position of the blue screen right there. I've hung on the walls a whole load of pictures that have been laying around for 5 months. I've done 4 loads of laundry. I put up a clothes hanging rail. I emptied another couple of boxes from the boxes that are still stacked up behind this blue screen here. I've issued invitations to the neighbours for a Christmas party. I have gone to the cash and carry for crisps, mince pies and beer. I have investigated the possibility of putting up mirror tiles on a section of uninteresting wall. I've checked out the prices of said mirror tiles on Amazon. I've looked into the possibility of some sort of arty wallpaper, again for that same wall. I've gone to visit an elderly bedridden neighbour, and I've finished off the Daily Telegraph crossword. Oh, and also I fell off a ladder, but the less said about that rather embarrassing incident, the better. So you may be wondering what might have caused this flurry of activity. And it's this: I've been doing absolutely everything I could think of so as not to have to try to make a video about Theresa May's antics with regard to the EU agreement, blackmail, strong arm. I don't know what you'd call it. Anyway, whatever you'd call it, I find the whole subject just too heartbreaking for words. And so it's got a lot of stuff done around the house, I suppose. But let's look a little closer at the people with whom Theresa May is negotiating. Let's get this straight. We're negotiating with the Germans. They're the ones who dominate the EU, and frankly, they're the ones, possibly with the exception of the Swedes, who have the most compliant population. I'm sorry, but the French have shown themselves to be, well, how do I put this? A little on the tetchy side. But apart from that, I don't think anyone could deny that from an economic and an industrial point of view, Germany has all the clout in the EU. So when we're negotiating with the EU, we are really negotiating with the Germans, whatever the nationality of the negotiator. Now, Theresa May is constantly talking about European shared values, and it was this that finally impelled me to drop all my household jobs and make a couple of points about British shared values with the EU, that is, with Germany. How many of you watching this video know that in Germany you cannot give your child any name at all? Names have to come out of a specific book, which is referred to as Das Deutsche Vornamensrecht. What does that? That sort of means the big German book of names. The ostensible rules that it sets down are as follows. The names should not be degrading to the child. And you can't use surnames. So all you Americans who are thinking of naming your children Brady, Cooper, Hutton, Marshall, Ashley, Cameron, Harper, Taylor, well, you better not think of moving to Germany. Oh, also there's a stipulation that when a child has a given name, it has to be gender specific. That is, it's necessary that the child is identifiable as a male or female from the first name. Now that's interesting, isn't it, considering how at the same time the EU, Germany, is going on about how we can't push gender onto kids. Oh, by the way, and anyone who happens to know about the German practice of giving a boy the second name Maria, speak to me after class. Now, if you want a name that isn't listed, you have to apply to the local name registry for permission, unless, that is, you come from abroad, as they put it. So let's guess what sort of people from abroad get to call their kids whatever they want. However, I actually don't suppose that would be a problem because, well, when you've okayed one Mohammed, you've okayed them all. Now, what I really want to ask is this: do we really have shared values with a culture that thinks it's a good thing to list the names you can call your child? I think not. I once had a conversation with a German academic about that. I just heard about this practice. We'd only recently started living in Germany, and I was quite shocked. Mind you, this was a while ago and less seems to shock me now. Anyway, this German academic saw absolutely nothing wrong with it. But of course, he expostulated, you can't let people call their children just anything. What if they wanted to call their child Adolf Hitler or Persil or something like that? Persil, that's the way we say it in England, by the way, is the name of a laundry detergent. And I said, well, if they want to call their child Persil, well, that's their problem. Ditto with Adolf Hitler. And he looked at me as if I'd just told him that I didn't believe that the EU was a good thing. And believe me, I once said that at a dinner party in Stuttgart, and I got an entire table of that look, which in German is a sort of blank expression of total incomprehension. You see, there are some things that the German mind simply cannot encompass. If anyone's read that really good book, Flatland, by Edwin Abbott, I recommend it if you haven't, you will recall the trouble that the two-dimensional hero of the story had in trying to describe the third dimension to his fellow two-dimensional citizens. He found it impossible, and they found it impossible to conceptualise. And it's just the same with Germans about certain subjects, so much so that when I was writing for the BBC some years ago, I was handed a general call for comedy writers, which was put out by a German TV company. Can you imagine that in Germany, with a population of about 83 million, they had to trawl for writers from Britain, population 66 million. It's not because the Germans don't have enough people, obviously, or even enough clever people. It's because they don't have enough people who can think outside the box. And comedy is, or should be, outside the box. And that box is why we should be very careful about talking about shared values with Germany, because once the Germans have made a box for themselves, they can't see outside it. Which means that for the Germans, the only values they can share are the ones that they have. I'm very grateful for financial contributions, but if you don't want to give money, you can still help a lot by sharing this and other videos I've made. Also, remember to check your subscription from time to time, as sometimes subscriptions get erased for one reason or another. Till next time.